Thanks for joining us today for this special session as we prepare for the Equity Arc annual convening in Chicago in April. It's great to see some familiar names and faces, and also looks like a couple of new people as well. So I just want to say a big welcome to our Equity Art community, where we come together to reimagine and create a more equitable future for classical music. For those of you that are new to all of this, I mean, Equity Arc is a network that's dedicated to supporting classical musicians of color by fostering collaboration, breaking down barriers, and also amplifying opportunities for artistic growth. So whether you've been with us since the beginning or you're just getting to know us, we're glad to have you here, and again, hope to see you all in Chicago. So this convening in Chicago will bring us back together in person in one of the country's most vibrant cultural cities. We're planning a really inspiring lineup of events, from some very thought-provoking discussions to inspiring performances, all designed to connect us with one another, to challenge, to inspire each of you to push the boundaries of what's possible in our field. So it's a moment to celebrate the work that we're all accomplishing, an opportunity to dive deeper into the issues that we're tackling together. Um, and during today's session, our incredible team will walk you through the details of the convening, including the schedule and registration, what to expect. We'll also share some exciting updates about our keynote speaker and some other programming kind of connected to this convening. So before we jump into all of that, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for your commitment to doing this work, your passion, your creativity, and also perseverance and helping to make equity art a movement, not just an organization. Because I think together we're creating a legacy of inclusion and excellence that will help shape the future of classical music for generations to come. So with all that stuff in mind, I just want to hand it over to Paula to guide us through the details of the convening. And again, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. As Stan said, I'm Paula Wilson. I'm the Member Services Manager at Equity Arc. Also from Equity Arc on this call is McGee Capsuto, who's our Associate Director, Mark Hunsberger, our Program Director, and Paige Kerrigan, our Administrative Assistant. So I'll let Paige start her screen share, and we'll get this going. We're really looking forward to having you all in Chicago and just sharing more details about our convening. So you can go to the next slide. Stan provided some great background. I'll do an overview of the convening. We'll hear some live testimonials from people who have attended before, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have. So as Stan said, we're a national service organization dedicated to creating equity in classical music. We do this in a number of ways, but one of our primary ways of doing this is gathering you all together to convene and just have strategic conversations about how we can really push this field forward. So who should attend this convening? Well, anyone who is in the classical music ecosystem. So this includes musicians, families, administrators, educators, supporters, all of the above. And why should you attend? To be part of those strategic conversations that are going to advance equity in classical music, both on the local and at the national level. So we have done convenings in the past. In 2022, we were in Chicago, and we hosted the Pathways Orchestra, which is a orchestra made up of really, really talented musicians, pre-college musicians from Pathways programs all across the country. They play side by side with professional orchestras, and they have a really transformative experience. We host that in tandem with our convening. We always bring in amazing keynote speakers. In Chicago 2022, it was Lina Gonzalez Granados In Cincinnati, we had Damari McGill. In Nashville, you'll see on the next slide, we brought in um, Monica Ellis. And we always are wanting to create opportunities for our fellows to interact with administrators and faculty, whether that's through the college fair or mock auditions or joint luncheons. There's always opportunities to connect. And really, the main reason why we're all convening in these different cities is so that we can create better spaces for these musicians to really navigate this field and to have an easier time in this field. So each convening builds off of the other. So in Chicago, some of the initiatives that came from our time there was the National Collective for Musical Pathways, which is, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's an alliance of pathways programs. And then we also had the Common Application for Summer Study, which came from that time in Chicago as well, which is a free application for any musician of color to apply to any of our partner summer study festivals. In Cincinnati, we were able to engage more collegiate faculty and also families. And that was when we changed our name from Nemon to Equity Arc. So this was a really great time for us to just continue to grow and build our coalition. And then we can go to the next slide. In Nashville, we continued a lot of similar conversations. This time having the college fair once again. We're always hearing from our fellows in these sessions as well. Hearing from our Pathways fellows, and we also got to bring in some alumni, people who were in their first year of college, and they were telling us about some of their experiences and some of the supports that they could use. And all of these panels really inform the breakout conversations that we have. So one of the key initiatives that came from our time in Nashville was the Collegiate Access for Young Musicians series, which is a virtual college prep series for prospective musicians and families. So as I mentioned already, we have the National Collective for Musical Pathways, and this is that alliance of rigorous pre-college music training programs that are providing opportunities to remove barriers from and accelerate the progress of BIPOC classical musicians. You can see a list of our members of the collective on the right-hand side, and one of the key initiatives that the collective has is that Equity Arc Pathways Orchestra. So you can see the Pathways alumni that study in these Pathways programs. They go off to really amazing music programs, and you can see that list on the screen. Here's some of the things that musicians within our Pathways orchestras have said about their time being in the ensemble. They really enjoy the opportunity to connect with each other, also the opportunity to meet professional musicians and hear what it's really like to be a professional, and just connecting with administrators in the field as well. So this year, the Pathways Orchestra is going to be playing side by side with musicians in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and the Civic Orchestra of Chicago. They're going to, of course, be able to connect with each other and with colleges. This year, we're going to be doing both a college fair and a summer study fair, and mock auditions. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to connect with these amazing fellows. Our music director for the Pathways Orchestra is Kyle Dixon. He's the assistant conductor of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, and he also leads the Memphis Youth Symphony as well. We're really excited to have him on board. And our keynote this year is Nazir McFadden. He is the assistant conductor at the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and he is also the music director at the Detroit Youth Symphony Orchestra. And he's an alumni of PIME and Primavera Fund, which are both Pathways programs. He's had an amazing career leading top orchestras like Boston Symphony Orchestra, Baltimore Symphony, and Nashville Symphony. And so we're really looking forward to hearing his words of inspiration for our fellows and also for our convening attendees. Okay, so here are the projects that we're going to be working on this year at the convening. We like to sort things by arc stage or stage of musical development. So on the entry and early space, this is when one is first learning to play an instrument. We're going to be talking about family engagement. We've had the privilege of having a number of parents come to our convening and participate in conversations, and we're ready to start laying the groundwork for a parents' council. This is going to really be a support system for families that are seeking to guide their musicians along their journey. And we're going to learn about what are the types of resources that parents are interested in having us create and produce for them to help them guide their musicians. In the pre-college side of things, we're going to be talking about best practices for supporting pre-college musicians and getting them at the level for college and for conservatory. We're going to be taking guidance from the National Collective for Musical Pathways, and we're also going to be talking about any changes that are going on in the field right now and anything that pre-college programs should be aware of as they are advising their students to get into college. On the college and conservatory side, we're also going to be looking at the college preparation piece of things. As I've mentioned, we started that virtual series, Collegiate Access for Young Musicians, because of the Nashville convening. And we're going to see how can we continue that momentum. What is the next step in the collegiate space to prepare their institutions for getting their prospective students into those programs. And then on the professional training and professional side of things, we're going to be talking about a fellowship initiative. As we know, there's the current model of fellowships is something that is at top of minds for many people. And we have a few ideas that we would love to share and flesh out at the convening about how that model can shift and evolve. Okay, so here's an overview of the convening schedule. It's April 4th through 6th, so Friday through Sunday. Our first event is happening in the evening, and it's our opening session. So you're going to hear a keynote address from Nazir McFadden. You're going to hear our fellows in the Equity Arc Pathways Orchestra. They're going to be sharing what's top of their mind for the field, and we're going to have an opening reception. On Saturday, we're going to have a session from Equity Arc called the Collective Ecosystem. And we're going to hear from Pathways alumni who are either in college or professional musicians and hearing about their journey and the types of supports that were helpful for them to guide them along the way. In the afternoon, we're going to have a joint luncheon where you're going to be able to connect with musicians within that Equity Arc Pathways Orchestra and with your fellow convening attendees. And then we're going to start our breakout conversations where we're going to have that focused exploration of the projects that I shared previously. Then you're going to have your own dinner, and then at 7:30, you're invited to join the Chicago Symphony concert. And then on Sunday in the afternoon, we're going to have another joint luncheon with fellows and convening attendees. And then you're going to be able to hear the Equity Arc Pathways Orchestra live in concert at 2 p.m. And then in the evening, if you'd like to stick around, the Civic Orchestra of Chicago is going to be playing a concert along with orchestral fellows and alumni from across the country. So we're really looking forward to that concert as well. So it's an action-packed weekend, but we are going to have just some amazing conversations and just moving these projects forward. And as I mentioned, we're also going to be having that college and summer study fair as well. So if you're a college, please join us for that time and on April 5th. Okay, so here are some details about registration. We have three different tiers. You can register for the convening only, or you can register just to have a table at the college and summer study fair. Or if you're college or summer study program, then you can bundle your convening registration and your fair registration. And so you can see the pricing difference. The price on the left is the member rate, and the price on the right is the non-member rate. Some ways that you could save, you can get a 10% discount if you're bringing a group of 5 or more people from your institution. And of course, if you join Equity Arc membership, you can access those member rates. Some key dates to keep in mind is February 18th. That's your deadline to submit your dietary restrictions. On March 1st, that is when our hotel block closes. And I'll note that our convening is happening at the same hotel. So the Hilton Chicago downtown. So that is where our hotel block is, and that's where the convening is going to have. So that's very convenient for you. And then on March 19th, that is when our convening registration will close. So we encourage you to book as soon as possible, especially when it comes to the hotel, because there are limited rooms available. Okay, so now we can stop the screen share, and I'm going to turn it over to some of our guests that have attended the convening in the past, just to share a little bit about their experience and their perspective. I want to start with Danielle Arnold from Eastman School of Music.
Thanks, Paula. It's really nice to be here. And Paula just asked for me to share a little bit about what it was like to attend last year. I attended as a college partner and, was planning just to rep at the college fair, but found myself getting involved in a lot of conversations at lunches and dinners, um, and just hearing about the different perspectives from the students that have gone through these programs. It helped me really become aware of a lot of the work that's happening across the United States, and it kind of got things percolating for me about what we can be doing at the Eastman School of Music to better connect, our efforts and what we're trying to do with what's already happening, at all of these wonderful programs across the nation. So I found it really helpful in like learning really just the depths of what's happening and getting a better grasp on what these initiatives are, and then that brainstorming for what we bring back and how we can work on it from there, because it is there's a lot of people working on a lot of different parts of the process, and it's kind of a rare opportunity where all of us can be in the same space, and talking about our respective roles that we play.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. We're so glad that you're able to make it to Nashville. Looking forward to seeing you in Chicago. And I want to pass it to Kenny, who is a parent of a student who goes to Project STEP. And he's also serves as the Performing Arts Curriculum Coordinator for the public schools of Brookline. And so, Kenny, I'll hand it to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Paula. So as Paula mentioned, I had a kind of interesting dual lens on the convening last year, in that I went in my role as a performing arts curriculum coordinator, where I oversee a large music program in a public school system in Brookline, Massachusetts, which borders Boston, and have been working in music education for many years. And my daughter is a bass player in Project Step. She is now 15. She was 15 at the time as well then, and she was a Pathways Fellow who was in the orchestra last year. So I felt like I was going into things to learn more about pathway programs, and contribute what I could as a music educator who works in a different setting, in a public school setting, and also what I've learned being a parent of a pathway student, which is sometimes feels like a full-time job, in a very good way. But those of us who support our kids in these programs, that are very they ask a lot. At least Project STEP asks a lot of students and asks a lot of parents to be very invested in supporting their kids, and I think that's required as just um, most kids, not all, but need someone to kind of stay on their case about practicing, bringing them around to places. And then as they grow up and they start getting these opportunities to travel and to audition for bigger opportunities, there's a lot that goes into the prep of those auditions that, you know, I think it's a part, at least in my experience, it's been really a partnership between the Pathways program, the parent, and the student, and all the teachers that are involved with the program. But I think that at the conference, I had a moment in my breakout group where I met with other parents and we talked a lot about um, what our experiences were from these, different pathway programs in different cities. They had that had many some similarities and some differences. I think the similarities were often about the vision. There was a lot of similarity in what all these programs were looking to do, which was to support underrepresented students of color who in the world of classical music, and to do the best that they can. But then the programs were very different in terms of what ages they start at, what they provided. There's some similarities and there's some overlap, but I found that, some programs started, Project STEP it starts at 5 years old. My daughter did not. She auditioned in later when she was going into seventh grade, but and then other programs started much later in middle school, or I think there might have been one that didn't even start until high school. So it was fascinating to learn about this whole world of Pathways programs. And even as a parent of a student, I wasn't really aware of this whole network until actually someone who the executive director of Project STEP said to me, knowing I'm a music educator, said, "Oh, there's this, this isn't just something your daughter's attending, but there's a whole conference and you should attend." And I'm sure you'd have a lot to learn from there and to contribute. So um, it was a really great experience. Paula, is that good, or anything else in terms of like what we talked about with the parents, or
No,
could?
that's great. And we're so glad that you were able to come out to Nashville. And yeah, we're really looking forward to having more parents be part of the conversation, especially as I mentioned, we're developing out that parents council. So thank you. This was great.
Great.
And I know there's some other people on this call who've attended the convening, not necessarily gonna call y'all out, but look, I'm so glad that y'all are able to make it and hope to see you back in Chicago. And I also want to open this floor now for if there are any questions or comments, whether from Equity Arc team or anyone who's attending the info session.
I will just say, having had the privilege of being involved in all of Equity Arc's summits and convenings over the years, it's been really, really incredible just to see, number one, the talent of the musicians who are involved in our orchestra. They really are exceptional young musicians. And so certainly recognizing the impact of Pathways work on cultivating that talent. And then just seeing the field coalesce. There's such an energy to work together. And I think we are entering a kind of unprecedented phase of life in this country right now. And the connections that we build, the work that we do together, I think is going to be more important than ever. So we certainly appreciate any time that members and partners come together and share their perspectives, share the challenges that they're facing so that we can, work together and find larger solutions for systemic issues. So hopefully, we'll see many of you in Chicago. And yeah, any questions at any point, please email us or call us or anything. We are here.
Okay, I think there are a few. Io?
Yes, hi. My question, I wonder how the National Collective specifically helps students get into these programs. Like, what is the mechanism that is used to help them?
Which programs are you referring to? Pathways programs?
Yeah, so the National Collective for Musical Pathways, I'm assuming it's an alliance, right? Um, to remove barriers. So what does it depend on each program what barriers are removed, or how is that measured? Does my question make sense?
I think I understand. McGee, do you want to try it and stab it? Are you understanding the question?
Yeah, I mean, each Pathways program essentially exists to support to provide very comprehensive support to the musicians, making sure that whether it's financial barriers, or a curriculum that perhaps is not responsive to the support that they need. So each program provides very holistic support to make sure that their musicians are able to advance. And this includes things like college counseling, um, mentorship around summer programs. And each of these programs also is very invested in their communities. So creating access to classical music, and also creating, as the name might suggest, a pathway from their very young, talented stages up into these next stages of their musical development.
Ryan actually operates a Pathways program in Atlanta, the Atlanta Talent Development Program. It's one of the most longstanding Pathways programs for over 30 years old now. And so that's one example of a Pathways program if you would be interested in just looking more into it. We also have a Pathways census that goes into a lot of detail about the different types of program components that each Pathways program provides.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
There's a few questions in the chat. So how many participants did you have last year? How many are you expecting this year and your goal number? So last year we had limitations due to the space. So we had to cap it at 100. And so this year we don't necessarily have those same limitations since we're in a hotel. So we're aiming for around 200 to 300 people. And the other question was, are there any specific events for students' parents during the weekend in Chicago? It's a good question. I would say, oh, okay, this is from Ravinia. Yes. So definitely the college and summer study fair. That's one of the main events that is open to any student and family member. Other events, I would still recommend, of course, the convening, specifically the breakout conversations and any of the panels that are going on, because as mentioned earlier, all parents and families looking to guide their student across their journey will provide valuable insight to the conversation on the Parents Council.
I would also, definitely recommend that anyone in Chicago come to the concert on Sunday for the Pathways Orchestra. This is a free concert, and it's just a really incredible way to celebrate the talent and to be very inspired, by the work of the programs, by the musicians themselves, and seeing, what's possible. So we would absolutely invite anyone who is interested to that performance as well.
I have a question about international connections. I understand this is like a American program, but do you also partner with programs in other areas of the world to be connected and remove the same kind of barriers to these institutions? Or is it America centric?
We are now focused on the United States. I think we have plenty of work to do here, but certainly in the future, knowing that there is really great work happening in other countries, that it will be important to be connected, to learn about what's happening, to inform our strategies, and also hopefully to share strategies that we found impactful here. I think that that's maybe a little further down the road for us, but definitely something of interest.
All right. Those are great questions. And as McGee mentioned, if you have any more, feel free to reach out to us. I'll be sending a follow-up email. My email is paula@equityarc.org. McGee's is mcgee@equityarc.org. Pretty easy, pretty simple. But thank you all just for coming out and learning more about the info session. Once again, we really hope that we see you all in Chicago in April. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.